All right, Miss Lucy, take me back to the moment it all started. What was the first record that made you stop and say, "This is something different. I need more of this"?
Well, when I was in the eighth grade, and I'm about to give up my age at this point. But here in Arizona, there was a radio station called KUKQ, and on KUKQ there was a DJ named Jose Cortez. He's still alive and he's still active, and there was a show called Terry Lee's Music for Young Lovers. And I'm sure you've probably heard of him. He was before Art LeBeau. And then
Okay.
in like the same thing, he's out of Pittsburgh, and it would be a show that was on like at 10 o'clock. So at that time, you're supposed to be in bed, and
Yeah.
I'm sitting there with the tape recorder recording, and I remember one of the first songs that I heard was Nolan Strong. I heard Nolan Strong, Since You're Gone,
Mm,
and that intrigued me. And then another one that I heard was Sipping a Cup of Coffee by the Ordells. Mind you, I'm in the eighth grade.
ah,
And at that point, I just couldn't stop listening, couldn't stop recording, and that's where I was introduced to a lot of doo.
okay.
And because that was primarily what he would play, and I was just absorbed by that, and I couldn't talk to anybody about it, because everybody's like, "Hey, you listen to the weird oldies,"
Mm,
because all of everybody else is listening to, I'm Your Puppet and Angel Baby and all of that, and I'm listening to something that's a little bit different, and to this day it's still something a little bit different.
yeah. Let me ask you this question. Was it the lyrics? Was it the instrumentation? Was there something going on at that time that really just kind of you gravitated towards that sound? Because I think back to being in middle school, and sometimes the lyrics, there's just a little too much distance between our age and being able to relate and understand. What was it for you?
I think it must have been the tempo of the music,
Okay.
and also the lyrics, because I remember like watching a movie, imagining a movie in my head. Somebody's
Yeah.
actually in a cafe sipping a cup of coffee and having all this sadness, you
Hmm.
know, and it's it. I'm pretty sure that it was the lyrics that got me, and the tempo of that music that got me.
Okay. Now, were you exposed to this music in your house, or was kind of the radio show at night kind of your first like experience with this kind of music?
It was the radio show at night that was my first experience.
Okay.
Um, and then of course, at that time the slow jams were popular.
Ah,
This was what, very late 80s, early 90s. um but that particular show, listening to Terry Lee's Music for Young Lovers,
yeah.
and if you've heard those comps, it's a variation of doo-wop and sweet soul.
Best of both
So
worlds.
yes, you do get the best of both worlds, and it's different from your typical Art LeBeau that the majority of us grew up with. In my household, um, we listen to, of course, Spanish music. My parents are from Mexico, and so I have grown up with that. That was primarily what we listened to. But back then, we would listen to Sunny Osuna and uh oh, there's like various that I can't remember, but that's that was a tempo, and it wasn't called Tex-Mex back then. Era
Mm.
música mexicana. It's Spanish music on the LPs, and I grew
Yeah.
up with that. And then again, traveling, my parents would take us to Mexico every year, and we would listen to Creedence Clearwater.
Okay.
So I've got all of that and the cumbias and all that. But in the evenings, I would tune in to that radio station and absorb as much as I could. And I would have cassettes full of stuff that only I would want to listen to.
Yeah. Now let me ask this. I know how I felt when I first started getting into record collecting. And I immediately have this jolt of I need to go find that record. And I felt the same way when I started listening to Soul 45s. After you get exposed to the radio station or the radio show, when do you start going after the records?
So back then, growing up, we weren't buying records, okay?
Okay.
Well, our parents had records, they had all the Spanish records, but we were buying cassettes. We were buying cassettes and CDs. And I remember that there was this shop over on the West Valley, and this cat had, so many cassettes. And he did have some 45s, but 45s was not something that was like, well, I don't want to buy a 45. It's hot and I don't want to, what am I going to play it on? My mom's not
Yeah.
going to let me use the record player. But I would spend whatever little work money I had, and I would spend it all on all these little gold comps. And I know he had a lot of bootlegs there because all of them had they were all from like China and Japan.
Yeah.
But that's and this guy was from Vegas, and if I remember well, he was also like he had been in a band in his young age. And he always had stories to tell us. But I remember having all these comps before George Miller had his CD comps. We were buying all of those cassettes prior to that. So a lot of us have those collections of cassettes.
Wow.
And then later on, when I was like, maybe I should start buying records. My first record was uh, My Conscience by the Lovelights.
Okay. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And then I bought that on eBay, and I think that was a boot as well because it had this tiny little skip. And I bought it multiple times, and it had this tiny little skip until recently. I finally got me a clean copy. So, I did chase that for a while.
Yeah. When you mention like compilations and tapes, it takes me back in the day where it used to be a really big work to make a tape, to make a
Mhm.
compilation. And then if it was made for someone else, it was even more special. We don't really have comps like that today when it comes to tapes because you can stream music or there's so many available. But I imagine you probably had some favorite editions on cassette tape that you just really loved and you probably played it out.
Right. We had I mean, I know I had, besides whatever it is I recorded off that radio station, I
Yeah.
had, and I remember I remember I ended up buying a lot of the Terry Lee compilations on cassette.
Okay.
Um and because there was maybe, I want to say, 10 volumes to that. And
Mhm.
then the oldies but goodies and all of those that would come out on cassette. And like I said, all those slow jams that came out on cassette before CDs came out. And yeah, I remember playing them over and over, and then buying like Joe Batan. And I remember in my house, washing dishes, cleaning the house, and having my little cassette player right there, all volume,
Yeah.
and my mom, as long as I was cleaning, she didn't care what I listened to.
I love that. I love that. Being a woman in a space that's often male dominated, how has your experience as a female record collector shaped your journey? Have you had to move differently, prove yourself, or carve out your own lane?
Well, I have been embraced by this community, by fellow collectors. Well, at the time, people that I admired that know that when you start asking questions to collectors and they know how to weed you out. They know when you're asking questions just to ask, or if you're genuinely considering buying something or genuinely want to learn. And they know, like, I've been blessed enough to encountered several collectors that were willing to talk to me, willing to teach me, willing to share their knowledge. And so it's been a journey, but I've been blessed, I've been accepted, and now as a peer to a lot of these collectors. And that's huge. Here in Arizona there's not very many female collectors. We're out here, soul collectors, doo-wop collectors. um I'm not saying that I am the only one. I'm just more active.
Yeah.
And I enjoy going to whoever invites me out to play. I respectfully attend and I show up, and I'm more like a um like it's I explain it as it's like going to a museum and looking at the artistry of somebody that you admire. And that's how I am. I'm going and I am absorbing all of that, and they're so welcoming. I've been as far as El Paso to, places in California, and all of the collectors are very, very helpful, very they're all loving people. I mean, it's like it really is a big family. And if you approach everybody with respect, because you have to understand that these people have um grown up with this their entire life, and are so
Yeah.
knowledgeable, and when they're willing to share that knowledge for you to you, it's um it's very helpful, it's very encouraging. And I've been blessed enough to be able to participate and share tables with collectors that I admired growing up.
Mm.
And it's just, it's not trying to prove yourself or make your lane, but show them the respect that they deserve.
Yeah. I think about that a lot because one, I think the community is fantastic. That's one of the things that I think simultaneously brought me to this space was the open arms, the people that were interested to share their lived experience as a collector, educate you on records, try to raise you a little bit into the rules of the game, if you will. And so that's something that I think is very unique and special about this scene. Another thing that I've noticed, even myself, when I first started collecting Soul on 45, I often say I wasn't really sure what I was doing. I mean, I know, ooh, I like that record, or ooh, that label. A lot of people talk about that. But it was probably a few years before I felt like I really kind of found my stride and was able to not just identify, but articulate the sound that I really love to listen to most. And I don't want to say it's carving out my own lane, but I think that as collectors, at some point along the journey, we realize that the style, the sound of the music represents us to a degree. And over time, the more you start adding those records to your collection, I think it maybe becomes a bit of your identity as a collector. Or if you're out playing and you're doing it on a regular basis, you start to be known for certain sounds. So when you have one of your sets, what are some of those records that you would say has shaped you as a collector that defines your sound? When people come out to see you, when they look at the bill and they see La Lucy on there, what are they going to expect sound wise?
Sound wise, let me see. I I do feel that there's a few songs that I like to play, maybe because I just want to listen to them over again and share them, and hopefully, they like what I like.
Mm.
I love to play it, especially here in Arizona, is Don't Put Me Down Cuz I'm Brown.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, that one is always something that I like to play. That gets people to listen.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, listen to that. You hear the words, and don't put me down because I'm brown, because everybody's in the Chicano movement. And the music is so much bigger than that. But that catches them.
Yeah.
And then I play, um, I always like to throw in a little doo-wop.
Okay.
You know, that's not for everybody,
Hmm.
but I really like it. And so I'm gonna throw that in there for you, and you're gonna be like, ooh, yeah. Like they don't realize some of the groups that that play doo-wop. So, it's like, that's Adele's right there. And so like, oh really? Yes. And you get into conversations with people just on the music based on the music that you play. Um, I always like to play let me see. Um oh I'm thinking. Why is it that I drew a blank?
While you're
Um,
thinking, I'll say this. There's nothing more rewarding than when someone comes up and they said, "What was that record you just played?" Or they acknowledge they actually heard the music.
hmm
When I've played
Yes,
records out in Seattle sometimes, I'm standing up on stage. I'm about to put on this record that I can't wait to share with the crowd. And I look out and nobody notices almost. It's almost like it's just elevator music in the background. And I'm like, do you understand what's coming through the speakers right now? And so when someone comes up and they're like, I love that you played that record, that is kind of like a check mark, like we did it. We played something tonight that someone was maybe hoping to hear. Maybe it was a new introduction. And then to be able to kind of show them the physical piece right there, that's when everything comes full circle. Because to your point, it's not about the competition. It's about carrying on the tradition. I think being able to put your hand on the wheel, if you will, and not surpass the ambassadors that have been on the scene for the last 20, 30, 40 years, but just for them to see that, hey, this is in a good place. There's people that care and love this music and they're trying to keep it alive.
absolutely. When you see when I play a certain song and you see that couple come out of nowhere and start dancing, oh, that's it. I'm playing for you.
Yes.
That just makes my whole day. And I love that. I love that. And here in Arizona, they're not much dancers. You in California, you get everybody on the dance floor, and here it's a little different. But you
Yeah.
know, what if you get that couple that just the guy just brings his girl out and he starts dancing with her? Oh, I love it. I love it. Even if it's just that one couple, that absolutely makes my day. And it's true, they a lot of people, they'll listen to you, they like the sound. I remember when I first kind of started playing, I did a car show, and there was somebody came up to me and he goes, you played this song, and I could hear it in the background, and I come and it's actually playing on a record. And that was just very satisfying for me. It's like, okay, I'm catching one ear at a time.
Yeah. Yeah. Something you said also stuck for me. I love the fact that you don't feel like you have to just play soul. The fact that you'll break out a doo-wop record, I think you saying that is really important for a couple of reasons. I think we've all been in a position where when we're putting our set together, at some point or another, we've said, oh, I can't play that one. For whatever reason, whatever we might think in our head. And there's some doo-wop records that I like too, that I want to bring into the set. I know that they've got to be somewhat close to that sweet soul side, if that makes sense. But I think it's important for people to hear that stepping outside of the boundaries, perhaps extending a little bit into that doo-wop lane is totally okay. It works, it fits. And I think you're just kind of expanding your audience a bit. So kudos to you for doing that. That's a big
Oh
deal.
yes, I'm a big um I love to play the doo-wop. Um I have a lot of friends who have bombs, and it's like, I'm not trying to insult anybody here, but and I'm not going to offend anybody, but I don't want to hear cutie pie coming out of that bomb.
Yeah.
I want to hear, I want to hear a doo-wop coming out of that. Be next to me, and this is the music that was playing out of that car. That was the car was driving up to a house of music, and the doo-wops were playing.
Mhm.
Like you have the Dukes, the Dukes
Yeah.
out of starting out in LA, now they're here in Arizona, and they have this this all of these moms, and they all originated listening to doo-wop, and
Yeah.
there's a lot of
Yeah.
collectors in their
You're talking
clubs as
about Renee,
well.
right? Renee and his brothers.
Renee,
Yeah.
and his brothers, the Ruelas brothers, and
Yeah.
then here we have a whole other club, and they're worldwide. But I mean, I'm just mentioning this club because doo-wop was a big part of that, you
Yeah.
know, and so it it just kind of goes hand in hand. I'll play. Let's say I'll play Billy Soul. Have you ever told her? And then I'll go into the Angelettes. You're mine and mine alone. That just went right in, played two or three, and then it'll go right out, and they don't know what hit them.
Every collector has that one record. What's the record in your collection that means the most to you? Not because of price, but because of the story behind how you found it or it makes you feel.
um, I want to say that rock candy.
Talk
That
to me,
rock
girl. Tell me more
candy.
about it.
That rock candy. Um, it came to me at a time where it spoke to me. It
Mm,
told my story. It it I didn't care about the label. It was the lyrics to that song, the way it sung, the
yeah.
way it's the pain in that song that
Mm,
I needed. That
yeah.
was it was written. It's like that was me speaking the words that couldn't come out of my mouth.
Yeah.
And then when you put that out there, and then getting to the story, and I'm looking at my record, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is one from that stack, and that's just more meaning to it, but it came to me when I needed it.
Yeah. We both love that record. I remember when I got my copy, I think I had immediately messaged you and I took a picture and I showed it to you. And that's when we both realized we had this thing for Rock Candy, Alone with No Love. And the instrumentation, I think, is fantastic. The vocals, that to me is just an incredible 45. But Alone with No Love will always have a place in my heart. One of the top records. And ironically enough, it doesn't have that dramatic sound that I look for now with records, but it
Mhm.
doesn't matter. I think that just entire production of how they put that together was incredible. And I mean, don't even get me started on the flip side. But what a lot of people don't know is that when we were comparing our records, we realized that the way that the label is a little off centered, and we
Mhm.
both had like the same type of off centering. And then we're thinking, gosh, did we get this from the same place? Was it in the same stack? Because there's a lot of mystery around that 45. Um, I remember before I was before I committed to buying that record, I had been doing research. There's three different versions: yellow, white, and blue. At the time, you and I both had the blue one.
The blue one.
It was, to my knowledge, there was curiosity around which blue ones are real. And at the time, the only way that I knew to do that was to buy like the yellow or white and to literally compare the two records side by side. And I remember probably this is at least 2, maybe 3 years after I got the blue copy, saw a yellow one pop. It was available. And I bought that record so quick. And I want to say maybe it was a VG. I know it wasn't a VG Plus, but I literally bought it just so that I could compare the two records to see if the etchings were the same, if there were any similarities. And I compared them and they looked the same. But really, what cracked the code was we had done an interview. Um, his name is Kevin, and he's from DC.
Mhm.
Kevin knows more about Dante Records and DC Virginia Soul than anybody, at least that I know. And he tells the story that the person that would do the writing in the dead wax, he always signed it a certain way, and I believe he left his initials in there.
Mhm.
And so what Kevin had said was, if you have this name and these initials, you have a real copy. And I think that that was a big moment for people with that record, because that might have been the first time that we had all heard the story of how to truly authenticate that record.
Right.
Um, there's lots of message boards that talk about looking at the groove, but nobody said to look in the dead wax. And I just remember how excited I was when we got off that interview. I remember looking at my record and I'm like, phew, it's got the initials in the dead wax. But that is truly a special record. I felt connected to you a little bit more when we kind of shared our stories around it. Now, back to Arizona, Arizona to the world. How has your local scene influenced your taste? Are there shops, people, moments in Arizona that helped shape who you are as a collector?
Um, Everything is evolving more now than it did before.
Yeah.
Uh, I want to say that the soul scene here, there's always been a soul scene.
Okay.
There's veteran collectors here
Yeah.
that don't really come out of their house. Now we're trying to pull them out more,
Yeah.
but I want to show my appreciation to the people that have given us a platform to share our music
Yep.
and to not water it down. Going back to the Dukes, the chapter here has always embraced us, and the shop that I'm in right now
Yeah.
belongs to a very good friend, tattoo artist Weiner, and he has had art shows where we have been the background to those art shows, and
Okay.
it gets so full of people, young people, older people, and I can see them mouthing the words to the songs. It's like, okay, and then later on the feedback is so great. And
Mm,
then we have a Nippers Clippers Barbershop that has always given us a space for the collectors. We will start playing records at 10 o'clock in the morning and we'll shut that down at 4 a.m.
wow.
Um, because we're just listening to each other play. That's all we
Yeah.
want. We just want a space to hang out, and we keep playing and we keep playing and it'll be funkin' so all night. And then there's, of course, we go to several car shows, but it's different when you have a smaller space and a more different crowd that comes in. I want to say that the soul and the doo-wop and the rare funk that me and my peers play here in Arizona, for I always like to say it's for a more exquisite palate. You know,
Yeah.
it's outside of your regular radio oldies, outside of the I'm your puppet.
Yeah.
It's like, I want to hear I'm your puppet, but have you heard? Don't You can't keep a good man down. Same artist, listen to something different, and we feed them something different. And thankfully, the scene is growing, it's getting better, and it's just, hopefully it'll be as accepted as it is everywhere else.
I love that. And, I always say I enjoy listening and kind of watching other collectors spin, just like some people like watching a sports game. I'll go out to see people spin records, and I've also been in a situation where me and Bubbles are in this tiny venue in West Seattle. There might only be a handful of people there, but we're educating each other and talking and just enjoying playing our records together, hearing them through a louder sound system. Uh, and that's kind of what makes it special. I would like it to be more normalized and accepted because, to your point, it's a real rich taste. And what I mean by that is a lot of people don't know what the music that's coming out the speakers. They don't understand that maybe there's only 300 of those records. They don't really realize what went in to that person that's singing their heart out on the record, or the drummer might have had a drug addiction. We don't know, but there's something, it's the charm. It's the charm. And I don't know if everyone locks into that. I don't even really like talking about my connection to the music because I don't expect most people to understand it. It's
Yeah,
different than
that's
just going
exactly
buying a
it. You
CD.
know,
Yeah.
we listen to music differently. You
Yes.
know,
Yes.
I have an experience with songs. And I'm one of those people that, to my friends, and I'll send them a song, and I want them to be as excited about it as me, and they're not. And that's okay. But when we're able to get together, and share our music, and somebody else can listen in, and maybe they like it too. But I do see that there is people that hear the songs. Like, for example, lately we've been hearing the Webs, It's So Hard to Break a Habit. And now you're seeing it all over social media. The it's in the background to these little photo sessions. It's like, do you know about that song? Do you know the background of that song? Have you heard the lyrics? Yeah, you look cute in that little video, but that song that's playing, do you get it?
Yeah.
And those are little, I guess, collector little. I just noticed that. And when I'm playing records, it's unfortunate. I know how much it's worth, and then a passerby is either they like it or they don't, and they can't tell the difference between it being $1,000 record or a $2 record, you know. Uh, but again, as long as they're being open to listening to that, I'm happy, and I'm hoping that we can just keep continue carrying this on.
Yeah. I think we're getting close. I feel like the movement is more, there's more awareness to it today than there was 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 5 years ago. You've got folks on the modern scene really pushing things forward. They're getting onto late night TV. They're getting into movie placement, commercials. And so that is kind of the gateway into finding out that, oh my gosh, that was a cover. What's a cover? And then you start just doing a little bit of looking and you're like, whoa, there's this whole scene that I had no idea about,
Oh,
these genres of
absolutely.
soul that are so, if Motown is the tip of the iceberg, the smaller labels, the mom and pops, right? That's beneath the surface. And you've got to really look and kind of know what you're going for because it's not out there quite yet, right? It's out there, but it's not out there. You gotta be in the know.
I mean, I feel so. I remember one day I was at the movies with my kids, and it was Sonic the Hedgehog, and I heard Kelly Finnegan. I was like, "Oh my gosh, that's Kelly Finnegan!" I was so excited.
Yeah, that's a huge
It's like
deal.
it is a huge deal, because we listen. It's like, okay, I have that record, and
Yeah.
then to hear it in a large screen at the movie theater, that it just makes you proud.
Every time I have one of those moments, I say the same thing. I might be like, "Oh my gosh, that's Duran Jones and the Indications," or it's this group, or it's the Sacred Souls. Those are those wins that slowly push things forward. I truly believe that. And we're the ones, the street team, carrying it forward as well. It's just in a different capacity. Digging stories. What's one unforgettable digging experience? Maybe a dusty shop, a random estate sale, or a connection that felt like a movie scene.
Ooh, I remember one day I went to go drop off a kid at softball practice.
Yeah,
And then I saw some like vintage looking clothes, right? So I go across the street,
yeah.
and lo and behold, this man has this whole little room full of 45s.
Wow.
And oh, I sat there, and I'm looking, and I'm just looking. I don't recall exactly what I ended up with, but I was just so like a child sitting on the floor with all these records. And I was just like a kid, literally like a kid in a candy store. And he gave me his number. I ended up buying a little of a vintage portable record player as well from there.
Yeah.
So he was like, "Oh, I have all this at home, and there's more." I'm like, "Oh my gosh, there's more." But yeah, that and I still have to continue to go dig at that place. But
Love
just
that. No,
finding those
that's a good
places, you
story.
never know.
You don't, and I don't think you see them too often. So those chance moments of walking in and seeing a stash of records like that is those are the moments that I think as collectors we live for. For me, I've gone into a thrift shop before, and I feel like the timing was somebody just dumped their 45 collection, and I get to pick through. But I think for me, and you probably agree to a degree with me on this, I think that it's harder and harder for us to find these records. And we're not walking into shops and flipping through records and having our choice of what we want in there. Typically, it's limited. I think that feeling of seeing a record that's been on the list for a long time, one that maybe, escaped you, that always gives me that feeling of, oh my gosh, it's there, it's available. And to then go ahead and add that to the collection, and then you bring that record in your home into your box, you put it on your turntable, you're literally bringing life back to that record again. And with the
Oh,
care
absolutely.
and preservation that comes with the territory as a collector, those are always special moments, especially the ones that we really set out for. Collector versus curator. Do you feel like you're just collecting records, or are you preserving history, telling stories through what you choose to keep?
I am most definitely trying to preserve uh for my kids, for another generation. Um, I don't have it all. I
Yeah,
continue to live on one record at a time,
yeah,
whatever I can afford, whatever I can manage to get into my collection.
yeah,
Um, I am definitely making sure that it goes to my kids, or that my kids are being educated on that. They already know that, mom and her oldies, but um I'm going to tell you a quick story. Once, when one of my daughters, she was about 2 years old, and then I had the other one, and at that time Linwood Soul would do lives on Wednesdays, and one of my daughters had to read, and so I put the earphones on the baby, and I happened to have Linwood on, and then all of a sudden she starts crying. And so I take the earphones off, and he was playing this sad song, and I was like, "Yes, that's my girl. She feels it." And she has picked my songs. I would buy a compilation, and she would like, "Mom, play that again and play that again." Stranger at My Door was one of them.
okay.
Um, Bucket Full of Tears was another.
Mm,
Those are songs that Bucket Full of Tears. I love that song, and that's underrated, so underrated.
it is an
And
underrated
but
one.
yeah, it's I know that my kids have it, and by like, yeah, my mom listens to oldies and she plays oldies, or like I heard her on her social media, and she's like, "I follow somebody who plays music like you," and I'm like, "You better tell them that your mama has it on a 45."
That's really cool that just naturally they hear the music and they move towards it, and to have the tears or to be like, "Mom, play that again." That's when you know that connection is there, and it doesn't always happen, but I think it's real special. I mean, I'm notorious for just singing around the house, the hooks and things like that. And randomly, I'll hear my daughter start, singing the hook to spinning around, and I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like, sweetie, how do you know that?" She's like, "Daddy, you sing that every day in the morning." So when we can have that connection with our kids, I think it's special. I also think that it's part of the responsibility, at least for myself. So many people educated me on whether it was a principle to collecting, a label, a record, grading, just observe it. And I want more people to come to the scene. So I feel like it's my responsibility that when someone asks that question, I make myself available to respond, to connect them with someone, or even to give advice. I mean, that's how I have this saying, when we do things by committee, we go farther faster. And if the whole idea is to normalize this, to create more awareness to it, we've got to be able to each one teach one, as they say, or help others out. And those moments when you help people like that, or like we have these connections with our kids, again, that's one of those feelings like when the couple comes out on the dance floor, or someone's like, I heard what you played. That's, I feel like, what moves us, what keeps us going forward, right?
Oh, absolutely. Um, I am not the most knowledgeable, but when I see the youngsters or I see anybody, hey, how do I find that?
Yeah.
I am the first to give you all the information you need, where to start yourself a little want list. If you hear something, anything, find it, put it on a want list, go back to it, listen to it, research it. There's no need to withhold information. It's withholding information. What's the purpose of that? It music is there for the sharing.
Yeah.
And I was educated by many, many people, and
Yeah.
whatever knowledge I've gained, I am happy to share with anybody that is interested in whatever I have to say, whatever I'm playing. Where did that come from? How can I find it? you know can you help me find it? Of course I can help you find it. And so it's keeps them interested, because I know that's how I get encouraged, and it's like, yeah, this is something that I can accomplish, one record at a time.
That's the only way to do it. And I think more and more, it's like I said, it's harder to find these records. I was looking at records today, and there are just certain thresholds with price. I'm like, I'm out. Can't do that. I don't want to do that. I love the record, but 1,700 is a lot. I always talk about, I call it the triple constraint. There's geography, your network, and then your budget, your finances. And I learned early on by looking at the back of records, whether it was what Nick Aguirre was doing, George, anybody that's put out a compilation. What I say, if you really want to ground yourself, go on to Discogs and try to find all those records. One, find out how many are actually available on just one of those compilations. Two, look at the grade. And three, look at the price. That alone is a bar, a gate right there. And what I also learned through that exercise was there are a lot of records that are perhaps popular that don't move me. And when I embraced the idea of I don't want to have everything, because that brings on a whole other kind of responsibility, in my opinion. I just want the ones that move me the most, that bring that a $50 record can bring me the same joy as a $500 record. And I
Yep.
always encourage, especially newer collectors, the compilations are the North Star. And it's great to land records that are on those comps, but you're doing something that someone else already did. What's your sound? What are the records that move you most? Because there's lots of records out there that aren't on compilations that can become part of your story, part of your sound. And I think that that's when it gets really fun, when you're able to say, this is the sound that I like. I need to have three, four male vocalists on the harmony. I need to have that soaring falsetto. I like the drum arrangement to sound like this. And if there's a flute, cut the check. I'm there. But that comes with time, and I think that whatever your pace is, you might be able to only get a record at a time. But being a student is endless. Put it on your want list, put it on a playlist, learn more about the group. Because at some point, that record that you want that's on your list, if you keep looking, you will find it. And that
Oh, and
moment
they'll come
of,
to you when it's your time. That is proven. I've been blessed with records that have come to me at the time I needed the lyrics, at the time I
yeah,
was financially able to get it.
yeah,
Um, there's records that I have came across and regret not getting, but that's okay because I got something else. I was just the other day I heard a song on it was on a video that I think Indio Soul was a part of. And I was like, oh my gosh, that song is so catchy. It sounds expensive. And it was The Radiance, Voice Your Choice,
Okay.
$20.
Yeah.
And then as a matter of fact, another collector gifted that song to me. And it's just, oh guys, it's such a beautiful song.
Yeah.
And again, it's just, wow, it moves you. It moves you. And there's so many songs like that, that I don't care if it's $5. Or sometimes I do have a goal for that one song, but it'll come in its due time.
Listen, anytime there's a record that's sub $100, that's a beautiful day right there.
Oh
That's
yeah.
a beautiful day. The one that got away. Tell me about a record you almost had in your hands, but you lost. What happened, and did that haunt you? Because you mentioned there's sometimes that we let the records get away. What's that one record for you?
The Fuller Brothers. The Fuller
Ooh,
Brothers.
I've been listening to Fuller Brothers lately. Which one?
Well, oh gosh. Stranger at My Door.
Mm.
A stranger at my door, and I had the opportunity years ago to get it, and I must have had some other financial obligations. Like, I can't. Let me wait on that. And I waited too long, and now it's so much more than what I would prefer to pay.
Yeah.
And but again, that was because my little one likes that song. She liked it so much, and I'm like, I'm gonna have to get that for her before she turns 15. Right now she's 12.
Okay.
So I still have some time if and I have been offered it a couple of times, and I am so thankful for the reissue. Um so I can actually play the vinyl. Um and so, but I am still, that's one of the records that I intend to obtain at some point. um it's just one of those songs.
And that's a really good story. I think it happens to us at some point along the journey. There's always one that gets away, and it is the most painful thing to literally. I'll look every day, check my alerts. I'll do random searches, and in some cases, it's literally been years before I see that record again.
But
I'm
sometimes you'll
grateful.
find it at 3 o'clock in the morning scrolling.
Yeah. There have been many records bought after midnight. I can tell you that right now. In fact, there's a record I got at the end of February, and I had no intentions. It wasn't on my radar. I had known about it. There's records that we find like years back and we forget about them. And then someone makes a mention and you're like, oh yeah. So somebody had said, hey, what do you know this group? And I'm like, no, I don't know that group. Look it up on my phone. Clearly, I do because I have it in my want list. But I mean, I've dropped $200-300 on a record at 1 in the morning because it's the only one there. Again, it wasn't in my radar, but somebody brought it up, and I just had to go for it because I said, if I don't buy this now, I don't know when I'm going to see it again. And sometimes it's better to, what do they say? Better to ask for forgiveness than acceptance.
Yep.
So sometimes you got to do that. Talk to me about collector versus curator. Do you feel like you're collecting record? Wait a minute.
We already asked that question.
Yeah, 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 we did. Community or competition? What's your take on the record collecting world today? Does it feel like a community or does it ever feel competitive?
Um, in my personal situation, I feel that this is a community.
Okay.
I am here in Arizona. We do our collectors here. We're tight knit. Um, and I go to other cities. Like I go to El Paso. I go to California, And when I go to California, like I said, I show them their respect that they deserve. And these are people that I admire. And to me, it's been a community. Like you got the group from San Francisco, you've got Santana, you've got Mr. Ruben Molina, and Arlene. And I have had conversations with every single one of them. Very knowledgeable, very forthcoming with information. And to me, it's been a community. I don't feel that there shouldn't be competition. People obtain the collection that they obtain based on the effort that they have put into it. It's a lot of, sweat and tears for a lot of people. And for them to embrace an outsider, that's special.
Oh, it's huge. It's huge. Indio Soul was telling a similar story about, being embraced and how important that was in the journey. And I think for me as well, years back, connecting with Noriega, coming out to California, being with Santana, I mean, that in itself, I love the music, but that alone was a really powerful moment for me. I think I agree with you. It's community. But over time, again, as we become collectors and we start to become principled on certain things, the competition comes from within. So I have certain principles around the records I buy, meaning near mint is my standard. I might not always get near mint, but that's my standard. And to me, whether I like it or not, there's some competitiveness in there. Clean labels is another thing. I think, paying respect forward is doing it the right way. So if it says OVO on the door, that means OVO. That means original vinyl only, no rees, no boots, and I respect that. And
Absolutely.
it
I've
it
gone
takes
out to
time.
California, and those are the rules.
Yeah.
And even here, I've got reissues and I play them personally. But I know that my friend right here has that in his box, and I'm not gonna disrespect them. I go to California. I've been invited to go. I remember I did the 100 years of the LA County Fair. I was invited. Rich Rich Ramirez invited me, and
Barbecito.
yes, and he's like, you know the rules. I absolutely follow the rules. All original, no reissue, and just to have that opportunity, and that you have to respect those rules, because I mean they're set for a reason. We can't just anybody come where I'm not going to go and disrespect them by pulling this record, $1,000 record, and playing it off of a comp. That's not part of the game. But am I going to buy the reissue? Yes, because sometimes maybe that's the only version I'm going to be able to get to have, like that Curly Murick, It Bees That Way. Love that song.
I
Will I
know.
ever own an original? Maybe not. Will I play it at home on my little reissue? Absolutely.
See, and that's the thing right there. There's records. Sigs taught me this. There's records we can't live without. There's records we love. And then there's other ones that we just let go. I don't love that record at 2K or even 1500, but to be able to spin it at home, or if I have friends over and I want to play a record like that, that's when I'm breaking out the rees or the boots. I will settle for a re or a boot when I know I'm not going to chase that one. And that's just kind of my take on it. The other thing that I want to point out, and I think this is so, so important, to be able to put together enough Soul 45s to play a set, that's like getting a brown belt in karate or taekwondo because it takes time to get to that place. When you think about playing even a 30-minute set, how many 45s that is, most people can't buy at that clip. So getting to that level and then being accepted to play at an event like that is huge for us. I think it's one of the moments that look forward to at some point, especially if we want to play our records out and share them. You play a 30-minute set, OVO, 60 minutes, you've got my respect because I know that took time. You had to put work into it. And so that is when we, go from casually collecting to really being serious about it, in my opinion.
Yes. Like I said, to me, to have a George Miller, to have Sigs, to have Santana and Gato, all of them, for them to say, that's our girl in Arizona. You go to Arizona and Lucy's our girl. Hit her up. She's one of us. That means so much to me because I am not by any means anywhere near uh in the realm of collecting like they are, but they know I have it in here.
Yeah,
It's right here, and like I said, they'll weed you out. They know who's sincere and who's not sincere. So, we're gonna be here no matter what. Again, one record at a time.
I love that. Soundtrack to your life. If someone wanted to understand you through just three records from your collection, what would they be and why?
Again, we have the rock candy
Yeah.
and depths of love. I'll never find a love. And
Heavy.
ice cold love. Not sheer magic, but the flip. Just, oh my gosh, wonderful to be loved.
Mm. Heavy, heavy,
Um,
heavy.
those three songs, um, they're they're either salt to a wound that's never healed, or I play it and be like, I'm okay now. I
Yes, the I'm
it's
okay.
yes. It's, again, somebody else don't understand because this is me. You can know what my state of mind is based on the music that I'm playing. I'll be smiling, I'll be laughing, but you'll feel my pain through the records that I'm playing.
Mm. It was last week. I think I had just like stepped out to go for a walk, and I always have my headphones in if I'm moving. And I had that moment where I said, "Okay, I feel better now." There was something that was occupying my mind, and it just takes a few songs, and it's therapeutic. That's the best way that I can say it. I put the music on, and it lifts me up. And I thought it was a fluke because that's what got me into this music was my friend saying, "Oh, check this out." And I'm like, man, every time I listen to that record, I just feel better. If I'm already feeling good, I feel great. If I'm down, it picks me up. And it's like when we said people listen differently, we feel the music. We don't just listen to it. That's the difference with this kind of soul, in my opinion. For the next generation, what would you say to a young woman who's just getting into record collecting but might feel intimidated stepping into the scene?
I would tell them to play what you like, play what you feel, buy what moves you,
Yeah.
buy what moves you. There's sometimes I will be at a record shop, whatever, and I'll hear the first three or four notes, and that's all I need. Some of them, they just
Yeah.
get you right away. And again, $5 record, $100 record, not everything is for you. And then there's so many songs that just, sometimes you hear the music, and sometimes the lyrics are speaking to you, and it's just whatever your mood is. Well, I will always encourage somebody who's interested in getting into buying vinyl, playing vinyl. It's But I'll always advise them, just, you have to be dedicated. Don't just buy just to buy. Don't just get what everybody else is getting. Don't just be based on, oh, that's a $500 record, I'm gonna have to get that. No, if it doesn't move you, then it's not for you. I am a big believer of, if you don't feel it, don't play it. You'll notice that every time I'm playing, I kind of lose consciousness of where I'm at. I forget I'm in front of a crowd, and I will be singing my little heart out as if I was frying something in the kitchen. And that's how it should be. And if you don't feel it, don't play it. It's not for you.
It's amazing advice. So for our first question for the lightning round, remember we're gonna go really quickly. Don't stay on one question too long. Favorite Soul 45 of all time?
Ooh, at Rock Candy,
Most you've ever paid for a 45?
$650.
45 you regret selling?
I've never sold a 45.
I thought you were gonna say that. That's good. Uh, let's see here. Clean copy or rare beater? What are you choosing?
If I come across that beater, I'm going to take the beater if that's what's available. Because you know what? That might be the only chance that I get.
Yeah, yeah. Um, promo copy or stock copy?
Ooh, if I can get that promo, I'll catch that promo. But again, whichever comes first.
Shout out to that white label. um, your go-to label you always check first. Is there one?
Not necessarily, but you know that checker label for the doo-wops, it's always been pretty good to me.
Okay, okay. Ballad or up tempo?
Ballad.
Okay. Your favorite female soul voice on a 45?
Ooh, soul voice. Female soul
Could be
voice.
male or female.
Hmm. Who were we talking about today that just has me mesmerized lately? The Fascinations.
Very good. One record you're still hunting, your holy grail.
Mhm. Um, I have many, but that song, um, the exceptions, the exceptions.
Okay.
That one that I played you this morning. Ooh, that wow. It was,
I love that you sent me that. I love that you sent me that. Yeah. That made the morning good. I like that.
yeah, that's haunting, you know. And when I first heard it, I promise you, I played it 3 times and I cried like, oh, you know, that
On
cry
a
that I
repeater.
needed at the
Yeah.
moment is, ooh, I love that song.
Mm. All right. Crate digging solo or with a group of people?
By myself.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, by myself. I don't,
Same.
you know, and I don't mean this in any bad way, but let me just dig, you know, let me be in my zone. And I'm not telling you what it is. You're not gonna get this out of my hands.
I've heard of people that will go out together, and I'm like, that just sounds like a bad idea. Like 5 people in one section looking at the same group of records, somebody's gonna leave hurt.
Yeah, somebody is definitely gonna leave her because, oh, look at what I found. Really,
Yeah, yeah. Miss Lucy, that takes us to the end of our soul session. Any last minute words, any shout outs? I'd love it if you would give a plug to the location that you're at.
Absolutely, I am at In the Streets Tattoo Shop belonging to Weiner. Follow him on Instagram. He is a world-renowned artist, a wonderful person. Thanks to my Dukes friends, Ben from Dukes and the rest of the club, have always welcomed us. Again, this is we're an exquisite palette. We're exclusive to Steve Imperial Soul, who is one of my mentors. Me and him went to high school together. And every time I'm just like going astray a little bit, you know, I talk to Steve, I feel better. And I need to remember I need to step up my game at all times. You know, because music has been here. It's been here. It doesn't judge me. It lets me be who I want to be. And like you said, it's therapeutic. Absolutely therapeutic. Has brought me out of the deepest of holes. And I I encourage people, no matter what, music is always gonna lift your spirit. If you need to cry it out, cry it out. If you need to get up and dance, get up and dance. If you need to sing, you get up and you sing. And do it by yourself, do it in front of the crowd. Um, but always feel it. Always
Drop
feel that
gems tonight.
bliss.
You drop gems tonight. How do we find you? How do we stay in touch with Miss Lucy?
La Lucy on Instagram. And I'll be out there hopefully pretty soon. Again, thanks to Weiner be putting out a comp out of Arizona. And I'll be shortly over playing with Santana. Thanks to Jose Planet Soul who invited me. Again,
Wow.
you know, I'm thankful to so many people that have encouraged me along the way, and
Mm,
you as well, being one of them. I mean, I'm on this international platform now that I would not have been had it not been thanks to you.
appreciate you so much. Um, are there any upcoming shows around the area that you want to give a plug to? Can folks see you out anytime around Arizona right now?
Yes, we're always going to be, again, anything that's happening here at Winer Shop will be a part of. Anything that is involved with will generally be a part of. Nippers Clippers Barbershop out in Goodyear, Arizona. We try to do once a month. We will have collectors and anybody want to bring a stack of records and share with anybody, or just because you don't want to play records by yourself at home, come on, bring a set, have some food, have some coffee. And we're there to encourage each other. Anybody want to just come and relax and listen to some records, more than welcome.
That sounds good. Thank you so much for joining. I want to thank everybody who tunes in to watch this. This concludes episode number 4 of Soul Sessions by Wax Villain. Thank you, Lucy.
Thank you so much.